Hi, I'm Patty Griffey, and welcome to the kitchen at Abingdon Manor, which is in Latta, South Carolina, and we're located in Dillon County. I'll be your host for a cooking demonstration today on how to eat healthy on a budget. We're sponsored by RALI, Dillon County, and the Dillon County Health Initiative. We're going to be working on 3 recipes today using lean ground turkey. We're going to be making a pasta sauce, turkey tacos, and chili. We're going to start first with our pasta sauce. And I want to talk just a minute about the turkey that we're going to be using. This particular product has a 15% fat content and 85% lean. The reason I like the 85/15 is because it's got just a little tiny bit more fat in it, which you can drain off as you cook, but it's just going to taste a little richer because regular turkey can be just a little dry. So in order to get started, what we're going to do is take some cooking spray. And you can do this in a skillet or in a saucepan like I have here. And we're going to get this pan hot, and then we're going to take about half of this this turkey for what we need for right now. And we're going to put it in there and let it brown. All right, so we can. All right, so now that's starting to brown. And we're going to chop the onions and the garlic that are going to go into this sauce as well. And in order to do that, I have a really fun little gadget that you can use. It's called a Vidalia Chop Wizard. You can get this at Bed Bath & Beyond. And it saves a lot of time in chopping things, saves you from having to learn a lot of knife skills. And also, if you are prone to crying from cutting onions, this will help with that too. So what we're going to do is cut the onion in half first, and then cut it into thirds. And then we're going to put it into this chopper, which is equipped with teeth in here and a little grid here. And you just put it in there, and you go like that. And it very nicely dices your onion. And I think I'll use just a little more. This was a big onion, so I don't think we need to use the whole thing. All right. And the other nice thing about this is it's got a measure on the side as well that shows you how many ounces or cups of onion that you have chopped. So that can save you some time and also some cleanup. Now we're also going to use a couple of cloves of garlic. And this we want to chop a little finer than what the Vidalia onion chopper does. So we're just going to smash it to get the husk off. And then I always take this little knob away at the bottom. And then we're going to run the chef's knife through this several times so we can get it nice and finely chopped. And if you want to smack it again, once or twice in order to get it sort of flat so it's easier to chop. That's a good thing to do. And then you just start chopping away until you get it pretty finely minced, because I don't think anybody really likes to bite into a big bite of garlic. And while I'm doing this, I can hear that my meat is sizzling a little bit, so I'm going to turn and just check it. And then come back and finish chopping my garlic. Okay, that's it for the garlic. And our next ingredient is diced tomatoes. Now, these are petite diced, and I like to use these because they're already more finely chopped up than some of the tomatoes that you can get in other canned products. And it just makes it a little bit easier to serve, and it's also a little nicer look to it. Because we all know that we all eat with our eyes first. So you want it to look good as well as taste good. So let me just check on the meat. You can see, because it's got that 15% fat content to it, that it has given up some fat, so we're going to remove that. Turkey's not like ground beef. You're not going to get a lot of flavor from the fat, so don't feel like you're throwing the flavor away, because you're not. Okay, we've drained the fat from the meat, and now we're going to add the tomatoes, the onion, the garlic, and some oregano. And then we're going to put the lid on the pan and let it simmer for about 25 minutes. While the sauce is simmering, it's time to think about cooking your pasta. I found this the other day. It's a new product that Muller's has out. It's called Hidden Veggies, and it's made with carrots, corn, and squash. So it's an interesting way to get your kids to eat a few more vegetables than they think they're eating. It only takes about 6 to 7 minutes to cook. The most important thing when you're cooking noodles is to make sure that your water's hot and boiling, and that you follow the time constraints that the package gives you so that you don't overcook them. Bad noodles are overcooked noodles for sure. So I'm going to turn around and put these in the pot. So most of the time you're not supposed to break noodles when you put them in a pan, even though they look like they're out of the rim of the pot. You should just put them in and let them start to cook down. And then you just want to let them come back to a boil. Put your timer on, which I'm going to turn around and do right here. So the noodles have finished cooking. We're going to turn off the heat, come over here to the colander, and let them drain. Make sure you get the water out of it. And then while it's still good and hot, I'm going to put it in your serving dish. This pasta actually turned out to be a very pretty color. I guess it must be the carrots in it. And then we're going to move back over here and check on our sauce. And we're ready to plate this. So you don't need to bury it in the sauce. That's not the point. You're after flavor, not quantity. So we're just going to put a little bit of that on there. Back on the stove. Now the nice thing about recipes like this is you can freeze it, or you can also hold it in the refrigerator for about a week or so. Since everything in here is cooked, there's nothing in it to go bad. So there you have your sauce. We're going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on the top, which can be the low-fat variety if you'd like. And then for a little extra color, and just a tiny little bit of extra flavor, I've got some finely chopped parsley here that we're going to finish it off with. And that serving per person should be somewhere between 250 and 300 calories, which is very good, very healthy, and very fun to make. Our second meal of the day is going to be turkey tacos. And we're going to brown some turkey, and then we're going to have all these nice different toppings that we can put on it. So to get started, we're going to turn to the stove and spray some Pam into the pan. Let it heat up before we add the turkey to it. It's always a good idea to let your pan heat to a pretty high temperature before you add the meat. Otherwise, it's going to stick, and it's also potentially going to start to just boil instead of to saute like you want it to. Now, the interesting thing about this recipe is that instead of putting salt and pepper on the meat, we're going to put ground cinnamon and curry powder. And it just adds a very different flavor, not so obscure that your children aren't going to like it, but it's just something kind of different, and it kind of heightens the flavor of the turkey. Turkey can be a little bland on its own. So this is a nice way to pick it up, since you're not going to be adding things like tomatoes or tomato sauce or anything else to the meat as it cooks. So I'm going to turn around here and put this meat in the pan. You can hear the sizzle, and that's what we want. And then in the recipe that we'll have along with this, with the program, it says to use about a teaspoon of each of these, teaspoon of each one of these on the meat. But it's one of those things that you can adjust the flavors for however you like it, but I would say to start with that and try that first, and then see where you go from there. And you want to work the meat around so that the spices get well distributed. So while that continues to cook, we're going to work on a couple of the things that we can use for toppings on the tacos. The first thing I'm going to do is open this avocado, and the way you do that is to slice it all the way around, and then you simply twist it, and you see the pit is there, and you go like that and twist that, and that comes right out. Be careful when you do that, though. And then, excuse me, I need a spoon. I forgot that. And to get it out of the skin, you simply take the spoon and run it around the corners, and then you can either dice it, or I like to just make these nice thin slices that look pretty when they sit on top of the meat and the salsa and everything else that you're going to be putting on the taco. So you can just put those out on a plate, fan that out. And then the other thing we're going to use is cilantro. And the nice thing about cilantro as an herb is, first of all, it has an interesting flavor, but it's one of the few things that you can use and you don't have to worry about taking it off the stems. A lot of times on herbs, the stems can be very pithy, and you don't particularly like to eat them, but that's not the case with cilantro. So all we're going to do here is just run the knife through this. Give it a nice little chop. And you don't want to do this too soon before you're ready to eat, because fresh herbs like this, when you chop them, can kind of turn a little bit brown, and you might not want that on the top of your tacos. So we also have salsa, low-fat cheese, a little chopped romaine, and some low-fat sour cream. Okay, now I'm going to take the fat off the meat, so I'm just going to take the spoon and get the fat off of here. Then I'll put this back on the stove to keep it just a little bit warm. The next step is to microwave the tortillas, and what I'm going to do is take a stack. With your family, you'd probably have a stack of maybe 8 or 10 tortillas to go in the microwave, but I'm only going to do 2 here. But what I recommend you do is put it between 2 damp paper towels on a microwave-safe plate, and then you just put the temperature on high on the microwave for about 45 seconds to a minute, depending on how many tortillas you have in your stack. And the interesting thing is that as they warm, the moisture from the paper towels kind of steams into the tortillas, so that then they stay warm. So they'll stay warm for 5 or 10 minutes after you take them out of the microwave. So I'm going to go in the back and do that now. The tortillas are warm now, and it's time to plate them. So I'm going to get the meat from the stove. So now that we have our warm tortillas, we're going to add the meat. A couple of big spoonfuls. So then we're going to add some salsa, a little cheese, low-fat cheese if you'd like, some romaine, the avocado, a little sour cream, which once again is our low-fat sour cream, and some fresh cilantro. So here we have a lovely taco. Our third and final meal of the day is going to be turkey chili. So we're going to start by chopping onions and garlic like we did before in the onion chopper, which will give us approximately a cup of chopped onions. And then this time also, instead of chopping up the garlic fine like we did for the pasta sauce, I'm going to just get the outside layer off and put them into the chopper as well, because chili's all about chunky stuff. And then we're going to heat a tablespoon of olive oil in a pan and saute the onions and garlic in the olive oil before we add the turkey. I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil to this pan, and then I'm going to take the onions and garlic. We're going to add this, and we're going to let this cook down. And we want this to get just a little bit of caramelization on it, because that does give a little bit more flavor to the chili. All right, so while these onions and garlic are sauteing, and they're almost to the point that we can go ahead and add the turkey, so we're going to do that too. And once again, we're going to use about a half of this package. And this particular time, we may not be able to remove the fat like we were before, but the onions are going to absorb some of that fat, and that's not a bad thing. So this one's just going to be a little bit richer tasting probably than the other two recipes. And once that's in there, it's not going to brown like we did with the tacos. It's just going to cook through as this simmers, but we do want to add some other flavor to it at this point, so we're going to put some salt and pepper in. And I like to use this Morton product that's called light salt. It has 50% less sodium, so it's very good for people who have heart issues. And then some more freshly ground pepper. And we'll just give that a stir. And then we'll come back to our other ingredients, which are some more petite diced tomatoes. But because we've put salt in the recipe already, I selected for this the no salt added tomatoes because it lets you control the salt rather than the canned vegetable controlling the sodium that's in your dish. And so we'll add those, and we're going to add 2 cans of tomato sauce. Be a little careful at the store now. They tend to put these flavored ones right next to the plain ones, and the plain one is what you want for this because I don't think you want tomato and oregano flavoring in your chili. And the last thing that's going to go in are some dark red kidney beans. And once again, I selected the low, well, this is no salt added at all, so this is a very good product for this. And then the very last thing is the chili powder. And that is really up to your taste. I would suggest that you start with about 2 tablespoons and see how that goes. It's something that you can add, let it cook a little while, taste it, and go back and add more if you want to. The chili's finished simmering, and so we're going to serve it up and put a few toppings on it. So there it is, all nice and steamy. And we can add a little bit of our low-fat cheese. And just a dollop of the sour cream. Or maybe 2. And there you have your nice, warm, hearty, wintertime, healthy chili dish. Thank you for spending time in the kitchen with me today. You can see that we've made 3 very healthy, very inexpensive meals. And I want to leave you with some tips. Do some meal planning, make a list before you go shopping, and always look for good value and bargains. For these 3 recipes, you can visit our website, and remember, you can eat healthy on a budget.